Hello, 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 filter-free America listeners. You're back. You're here. You're listening. I can't believe it. Nobody's watching. What are we watching now? Game of Thrones. Somebody's watching Game of Thrones. You're not watching the new Avengers movie. You're not watching porn. Well, maybe some of you are watching porn, which would be interesting if you're going to watch porn and listen to me at the same time. But whatever you're into, you're into. But regardless, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're listening. And I'm glad you're growing. Oh, my God. The listenership for the podcast over the last month has grown substantially, right? Substantially over the last month. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it, if you guys are just bored, if you've ran out of other shit to listen to, if there's nothing else out there. Did all the other podcasts stop? I didn't know that. Did they just end all of the podcasts? I'm like, well, fuck it. We'll listen to this one now. There's nothing else out there. Whatever the reason is, you guys are listening in greater numbers and growing numbers. And all jokes aside, touches me in my my touchy-feely place. That's what I'm trying to stammer out of my mouth right now. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good that for some reason you're listening to this podcast. Because to be quite honest, if no one was listening to this podcast, why the hell would I be doing this podcast? I don't know. But I'm glad you guys are here. All right. What are we talking about this time? What's this episode going to be about? All right. The guy I got coming in to talk to in this episode is not only on his own just a great human being, but he's also been a great human being to me in my life as a stand-up comedian. When I first started out, if any of you who don't do comedy, right, it's a very hard business for a lot of different reasons. And one of those reasons is just getting opportunities, right? Just getting a chance to get on stage, tell your little wiener jokes, and get off. Just getting that opportunity is a battle in itself, all right? And the guest that we have on today, who not only is a comedian himself, but he also used to book a lot of shows and put things together. And he was one of the first kind of show booker guys to take a chance on me, let me do longer sets. And I think, I know I didn't do my first feature set at one of his rooms, but I know it was definitely my second feature set was with him. And I'm always be grateful for what he did for me, just give me the opportunity to do more and learn more and work with him in many, many opportunities. So who is it? Who's the guy? It's probably somebody not a lot of you are going to know in the world, unless you're right here in the Twin Cities area. But nonetheless, he is an important figure that you should know, and his name is Joe Tanner. Joe Tanner, the comedian, right? But not only is a comedian, right? He also was a mailman. He was a mailman until just recently, and retired because of medical reasons, and those medical reasons are why we are talking in this episode, right? What it is basically was he was diagnosed with multiple things, but kind of the main center of this conversation is going to be about one of the three issues that he's dealing with, and that is functional movement disorder. Functional movement disorder, right? He is suffering from that. If you want to use the term suffering, he's definitely not suffering in the sense that his life is over and is ruined. Because as you'll hear in the episode, we laugh, we have a good time, we make a few jokes, but we take time to learn about what this is. And of course, I greatly appreciate that. Anybody who ever wants to come in and talk about something that's not going to be, super nice or super exciting for them or something like that. They kind of let me into their lives, and I learn about whatever it is that they're sharing with me, but they also make themselves vulnerable, right? And again, part of what we're trying to do here at the podcast is having these kind of conversations, where it's not always good stuff, sometimes it's bad stuff, but they're opening themselves up for the world and sharing with you. So that's what we're going to talk about, okay? We're going to talk about the conditions he's dealing with, mostly the functional movement disorder, and the process of diagnosis, how he figured it out that he had this, the issues that he was having, how it affects his life, when he was still working as a mailman, and even how it's affecting him now. A little bit about how it affects his lovey time with his wife, things like that. So if you've never heard of functional movement disorder, don't feel bad, because I didn't really know what it was either, right? You would think by the name of it, it's pretty self-explanatory what it is. But we get in depth anyway and give a better explanation of what it is besides just the name. And you learn a lot about it, right? So kind of an obscure topic, but still an interesting topic nonetheless. And I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. What else do I need to talk about? Oh yeah, lots of new episodes coming. I know I've been a little delinquent over the last couple weeks. I haven't put up a recent episode, and my apologies. Just a lot of stuff going on, work-related stuff, dog-related stuff, all kinds of things together have been a distraction. But that being said, got this episode that I literally just recorded hours ago, and I've got another one coming in tomorrow, and I've got quite a few episodes coming, so I'm going to have a tremendous amount of content here over the next couple weeks, and I'm going to keep throwing at you guys and trying to make up for the time apart, or the time for lack of episodes, I guess would be better to say it that way. What else? I talked about that. Please make sure you're still going to the wherever you're listening to the podcast, whenever your purveyor of podcasts is, be it YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever you're getting this content. Take time, make sure you subscribe. I'm sure most of you are who are listening to this, but if you're new here, please subscribe. Also, leave a rating and review. You know, every different podcast outlet has a different way to do it. Sometimes it's just you add a little heart, you know, and that's all they let you do. Or sometimes it's a star thing, like, oh yeah, I like this one. Yeah. Or like iTunes. And again, I always tell you guys, I mean, I appreciate the listeners everywhere, but iTunes is always the most important one. Please go to iTunes, subscribe. Hit the little thing that says 5 stars, right? 5-star review, okay? And then if you've got a little extra time, leave a little short message about what you feel about the Filter Free America. Let your feelings flow in the form of a review, right? Just type a few words like this podcast really makes my lower area around my waist get firm. Right? Something like that. You know, I would think that was hilarious. But if you don't have something to get firm down there, that's fine too. Moist. Use moist. Whichever one it is, use it and express your love for the podcast, because iTunes is magical, apparently. And if you're not doing really good on iTunes, nobody else cares about you. But regardless, I care about you. We care about each other. I know you love the show. But please take that step. Rate, review the podcast. Let's see. Oh yeah. Simplewebsite.us, our sponsor, right? We got to talk about them. Simplewebsite.us, simplewebsite.us. One more time, simplewebsite.us. Now, you regular folks, you guys know what this is. But for the new people, let me explain. Simplewebsite.us is this, okay? Now, you know Squarespace, right? Everybody knows Squarespace. That's the place where you're supposed to be able to build your own website, right? They claim that. And for most people, it's true, right? But for somebody like me, somebody who struggles in the world of technology, you need a little help. You need a little hand-holding. You need somebody to do it for you. And that's what they do. That is what Simple Website does. They take your idea for a website, and then they go to Squarespace and they build it for you, right? That's awesome, right? You don't have to do anything. You just give them a few ideas. Say, hey, this is what I want to do. You know, I want a website that, you know, has pictures of, I don't know, all the things I smash with a hammer. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you're into smashing shit with hammers, be it bugs, I don't know, glass, whatever, things like that. And you want a website to represent that. So you just tell them, hey, I want a smashy website. I want my website to be www.ismashshit.com. And they will do that. And they will make it. And it's amazing. You don't have to do nothing. You just say, here you go. Here's a little bit of money. And website is made. Hold on a second. Not going to edit that at all. No, not at all, because I'm too lazy. But anyway, back to simplewebsite.us. Go to them. They will help you out. And check this out. You don't even need to pay them any money, because if you go to their website right now, you will find free tips and tricks to help you build your Squarespace website all by yourself. There you go. So it's for both people. It's for dumb people like me, for people who have don't have enough time to do it, and it's also for people who just want a little help doing it. Simplewebsite.us. All right, well, let's kick this show off. Get this interview rolling, and we need a title, right? So, well, this is another one of those episodes where the title kind of writes itself. So we're going to call this one Life with Functional Movement Disorder. with Joe Tanner, right? You like that one? I like that one. It's quick and to the point. Life with Functional Movement Disorder with Joe Tanner right here on the Filter Free America podcast. Let's go. All right, Joe, why don't you start by telling me what exactly it is you're diagnosed with, even though I know from our pre-discussion that there's still a little bit of question?
Right. Well, they diagnosed me with three different things. One is neuropathy, which affects the nerve endings in your feet and your toes especially.
Okay.
The other one is a brain issue called, and bear with me on this word, encephalopathy.
Encephalopathy. I practice saying it over and over again, and
maybe we'll just call it the E word.
The E word.
Encephalopathy.
Right.
And then the third thing is called functional movement disorder.
That one's got a nice abbreviation, FMD.
Yeah, we can be easy with that one, FMD.
Right. Okay. So that's what you're diagnosed with, but like, as I was saying, you don't know for sure if that's what it is. It's still kind of an ongoing thing, or they're just treating you under the umbrella of these things. And
well, the functional movement disorder is a for sure thing.
Okay.
And as well as the neuropathy.
Okay.
The encephalopathy, the E word, the University of Minnesota thinks I have it. The Mayo Clinic of Rochester says I don't. So I do or I don't.
Right.
I'd rather not have it.
If I'm placing bets, I'm betting on the Mayo Clinic.
That's what I think. I think Mayo is the best in the world.
Now, the first one you described, the
neuropathy.
Okay. Now, what is that individually? What is that one again?
What that does, that affects your nerve endings in your feet.
Okay.
Your feet and your hands mostly. And a lot of people who are diabetic end up getting this. And
Are you diabetic at this time?
I'm diabetic.
Okay.
I'm working to become a controlled diabetic. I'm trying to lower my A1C, and I've been trying to remove pop and the sugars out of my diet, things like that. So I'm doing really well with that. And neuropathy, if you can catch it in time, you can. I don't know if you can reverse the problem, but you can certainly stop it or slow it down. So that's what I'm banking on.
Okay.
And there's some different creams and salves that you can use to help with the pain and stuff like that. But when it's full blown, it hurts. And it's your toes. It's hard to walk on things. It's like you're walking on shards of glass sometimes. So anyway, I'm working with that. So I have that, and for sure the functional movement.
Okay. Let's go through each one just to describe it. Now, the one I can't per se the E word.
The E word.
What is that, and what are the signs or what symptoms of that you, as you know it?
Well, that's something.
And again, just so everybody knows, Joe's not a doctor. He's a patient of this, and so if we get anything wrong, it's only because he's learning it and I'm learning it for the first time, and he's learning as we go. But,
right.
So what is it as you understand that?
Encephalopathy. It's you end up going on the internet to look some of these things up, which is a dangerous thing to do, because then you think you have everything under the book.
Dangerous for me because I always stop and look at porn, and then you look at medical stuff, and it's a bad combination.
Right. Kind of like if you show me your encephalopathy, I'll show you mine.
Exactly. There should be a porn category, I guess. Encephalopathy, E-word porn.
Look, encephalopathy on her. But it's kind of a brain damage or a malfunction, and that's kind of where they looked with me. I used to work in the bars, and apparently I wasn't a very good bouncer because I took a lot of blows to the head.
Right.
And one of the first interviews with the doctors, they asked me, how many times have you been hit in the head? And I got up to about 20. And the guy just said, you're making these up. And I'm not making them up. It's like, okay, doctor, why is my nose growing? And he said, you're making these up. And I said, I got 20 more I can tell you about. I mean, I've been hit with sticks and bottles and cans and kicked in the face a number of times. And there was one time where a guy was, I was in a brawl with him. And somebody started taking my picture, I thought. I was seeing flashes of light.
Right.
And I thought, what in the world is somebody taking my picture for during a bar fight?
Right. Especially back when there was no Facebook to post it on.
Right, you couldn't share it. Sure, you want to see this Polaroid? And then I realized what was going on was he was kicking me in the head. And every time he kicked me, it was this big flash of blue light. And it's like
a flash of consciousness, probably.
Yeah, it's like the flash bulbs going off. I thought I was in a Rocky fight or something. But then I realized he's kicking me in the face. And actually, I did actually get up from that. But when I told this doctor about it, he said, you probably suffered 4, 5, 6 concussions. Every time he kicked you, that was your brain separating from the skull. So I told you I wasn't a very good bouncer.
Right. See, whenever they talk about that, or I listen to another podcast or watch a show about concussions or anything about the brain related, I get terrified because I've had two very substantial ones. One where I fell backwards and hit my head on the concrete and had a big swelling back there.
Yeah.
And then one before that, I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, I was me and a buddy, we were walking from somewhere around his house and it was cold. And it was like, like a sock hat, you put on your head.
Yeah.
If you pull it over your face, you can kind of see through the holes of the sock if you pull it over, right? So it was so cold, we'll just pull it over our face and keep our face warm. So we walk. Well, I could see kind of down the road, but then I walked off the edge of the road and it happened to be right where a big 30-foot drop was.
Oh.
And I fell and was knocked unconscious and he had to go run and grab somebody. So I have two very substantial, and who knows, because I used to do, some very simple low-end MMA fighting type stuff and practicing, not like in a cage or anything like that, just training. And I've been in a lot of street fights and things too. So I wonder whenever I talk to somebody like yourself who's experienced some things neurological related, it terrifies me to death. It's like, when is my brain going to shut off?
Well, it's like,
or what have I done to it already?
Yeah, it's like the CTE that these football players get. They don't find out about it until after they're dead, because then they do an autopsy. And they say, oh yeah, Joey fell off a 30-foot cliff, and there's the mark. Yeah. So they don't know if that's what I have or not.
What about this? And this is, again, just how the podcast works at times. Speaking of that, since you brought that up, are you keeping up with is his name Tyreek Hill? The guy that broke his 3-year-old kid's arm?
Well, I just read about the story yesterday.
Chiefs?
I didn't even know he did that. I just know that he was being looked at for child abuse or something.
Yeah, I think he's a monster.
Okay.
But my first thought was, knowing, what I know about head injuries now, is that anger problem a direct result of it. He hasn't been in the NFL very long, but he's been playing football since a kid.
Well, it could be.
And maybe he's not beating the shit out of his kid because he's a monster. Maybe his brain is just defunct to that point.
Yeah, so I don't know much about that one. I know he's only been in the NFL 2-3 years.
Right.
Pretty young guy.
Go ahead. What you were talking about, as far as the E word, I'm calling it?
Yeah.
Is that as far as description of it? Or?
Well, it is. But when I went down to the different doctors I went to, they tested also for one thing with encephalopathy. Okay. I'm not going to say that word too many more times. The E word.
Everybody listening, it's the E word now.
Yeah, the
you
E
know
word.
What we're talking about.
They also check you for dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay. And I don't know if that's hereditary. My mom had it and passed away from it. But they bring you to some of these very intense tests to test your brain and see where you're at. And they might be talking just how we're talking right now and then go, oh, by the way, here's a list of 50 words. Look at them for a couple minutes. You look at them, they take them back. Then they're talking like we're talking now, how's fishing, who won the World Series, and all of a sudden, oh, back to that page, those 50 words. What about them? How many do you remember? And I think I got like 4.
Really?
It was like the cat was chicken, house. Then they take it away, and they give it back to you. Then you go, here, this is all the words you missed. Okay, you look at it. You got them? Yes. A couple minutes later, they do the same crap, and they're trying to test your memory and how long your short-term memory, because they say
what's a good result, what's a bad result? Because I'm just thinking right now, because I got the memory of a fucking housefly. I wonder how well I would do.
I didn't do very well, and all I know is it made me cry. It worked your mental.
Right.
Like overtime, it's like, and then you go home, it's like, do I have what mom has? Is that what I got? It turned out I did well enough where they said you don't have that.
Okay.
But then every time you forget something, it's like, crap, here we go. Maybe I do have something. But that was one of the things they checked with that. And in some of my notes I have, it says some of the symptoms could range from mild to strong, such as memory loss or subtle personality changes. And it could even lead to dementia, seizures, coma, or death. Yay. So anyway, that's why I really don't want the E word.
Right,
so that's why I want to go with Mayo's diagnosis that I don't have it.
I got to think Mayo's on the ball relative to the U. I mean, no apologies to you, but I mean, fuck, it's the Mayo Clinic.
Right. Well, and these are the things that retired me from the post office as a carrier. Right. Were these 3 things here.
We're going to get into that. Real fast before we move on. Functional movement disorder, what is that?
Functional movement.
It sounds like it's pretty self-explanatory, but...
Well, it's a disorder. It's a neurological thing where it can cause your body, your arms, your limbs to do uncontrollable jerks, spasms. you're just out of control. Your legs, believe it or not, you're trying to walk straight, and you look like you're drunk or in a skunk, and you just start, and you don't know or in my case, I don't know it's coming. All of a sudden, it's just, here we go. We got another episode.
Right.
And it's things like that. They say it could be psychological. It could be another result from the trauma. If you've suffered trauma, and maybe that's getting back to being hit in the head a number of times.
So there's no time frame of when it can show itself then.
Right.
Like if you got hurt 30 years ago,
right,
that damage could be there, and it's just getting as age and as your body naturally just kind of loses function, then that's just going to start to show itself more.
Right.
So that's a possibility as well.
And from what I see and what I read about, it doesn't care if you're 20, 50, 75, you can get it. So it's not really an age-related
thing,
syndrome, disease, disorder.
Okay. Crazy. Well, I think you've already answered that. I think it's the E word. The word is the worst of the three, right? Because that one is the one that has a direct cause of death component. Is that right?
Yeah. I would say certainly that's the worst one. The neuropathy, if you can get that under control, as far as I know, that doesn't kill you unless you fall down the stairs and hit your head because your feet hurt. Okay. But otherwise, normally, I don't think it's going to.
It's not a direct cause. Right. Maybe
something that leads the functional movement disorder, I don't think it's going to cause you death. It's going to be very, very. It's going to take control of your life at times. I could see where a person
disruptive to normal life.
Yeah, and they could say we can't let you drive anymore because you might have these spasms while you're driving. So I could see that happening.
Right.
I know of different folks that have lost their jobs because of it, because they just flat out can't work anymore.
Okay. Just give some background on you. What is your age now?
59.
59. Okay. Married. 3 kids, right?
Married with 3 kids.
And lots of awesome dogs.
Okay.
So let's go back to the beginning. What was your age, and when you first got a sign that made you alarmed or made you take notice?
One of the things on the mail route.
And Joe, you were besides being a hilarious comedian, you were also a mailman, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I carried mail, and I delivered out of North Minneapolis, and there are lots of steps, lots of stairs, and and you're going to fall down once or twice during the year. The last year that I was there, I fell 15 times in 1 year. And it got to be like, what the heck am I falling down for? And sometimes you get a stairway that has an uneven step. And like everybody knows your stairs. Like you can walk your stairs here blindfolded because you know the distance between each one. Like all of a sudden you stick a unlevel.
We're not talking like you slipped in like weather conditions.
No, it was just you flat out tripped and fell. And one time there was a guy, he was about 6'3". He was my boss. He was walking with me today. Go out and walk with you and see how you're doing on your route. I turned and I fell. It was my feet got caught up and I fell. And if this guy wouldn't have been there, I would have been flat on my face. And he caught me and we were in like a lover's embrace. I mean, my lips were right up to his.
2 mailmen just out
well, he was
hugging.
The supervisor. And he goes, I don't like you. Well, I'm glad you were there to catch me anyway. So that affected me. And so then I thought something's going on here. And so I talked to the union, and they said, why don't you get on a mounted route or a business route where you don't have all the blocks of walking?
Does mounted mean like you just delivering out of a vehicle?
Out of the vehicle where the people's mailboxes are out on the street. That's mounted. And so the route that I ended up getting had a little bit of mounted. It had a lot of apartments and a lot of business. So I still walked, but I didn't walk like 24 blocks a day.
Right, just walking to a bank of mailboxes and things like that.
Yep, in and out of businesses. So that helped, but there were still some problems there because I still kept falling. And now it's like, why is this happening? So that
Did you get any injuries from the falls? Any kind of like broken, just out of curiosity?
Well, at home, I let the dog out, and we have 3 of them. And the 2 go out, and they always go potty where they're supposed to. And then the 3rd one ran out, and she went around the corner. So I went to see where she was at, and it's at midnight. And my legs crisscrossed, and down I went. And when you're young, you can always fall, and you can somersault out of your fall. Well, I kind of summered, and I didn't do the salt part. And I went straight in. And I never played football, but I can imagine what it feels like now hitting something with your shoulders. And I was laying out there, and I knew I have never had a broken bone, but I knew I did something wrong. And it turned out my collarbone was shattered into 5 pieces. So that was how I spent my Father's Day last year.
So an injury we now think is related to that.
Yeah, so that was tied in. And then when I first...
Did you tell me how long ago the first symptoms, the first falls or whatever, how long ago did this, from today's date?
The year with the 15 falls was probably about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And then about 3 years ago, my wife Lynelle and I we were at Cub Food. I remember we were in the produce section, and my feet just started. We were walking normal, nothing the matter. You know, we hadn't been to a bar, nothing. We just let's go to the grocery store. My feet started crisscrossing, and not just like a little bit. It was you were out of control, crisscrossing. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know because this has never happened to me before." And
had you guys talked about any kind of symptoms or any kind of concerns that you had about falls or anything at this time?
Well, just she was hoping I could retire because of the falling. She said, I think you're going to fall down and crack your head open one day and that'll be it. But so when I'm doing this and they're crisscrossing and we're laughing about it because this is funny. It's like you're out of control. It's like, are you being a clown? No, I'm not. Look at me. And everybody in the lettuce section is looking at you, because look at that guy over there.
Oh, those people are judgmental in the lettuce section.
Those bastards. It's always the lettuce.
You got to get over there with the rutabagas. Those people are more down to earth.
Yeah. I was always kind of a potato guy. but so anyway, so that's when I first really noticed it. And then it would come and go. And it happened at work a couple times. And what I did, I would have somebody at work tape it. And I wasn't hiding it because I didn't want people thinking, oh, he's on something or, popping some pills over there. So I would have somebody take my camera and videotape it so I could show it to the doctors.
I don't know if I've mentioned it yet so far in this podcast, but I've watched videos of you doing it, and it does appear, like, hey, he looks like a sober guy doing a drunk guy. Is what it looks like. It's really what it looks like. The staggering and I saw kind of examples of the feet crossing as you trying to walk. So I'll try to link that somewhere within the podcast if it's okay with you. To
of course.
Post that,
yeah. Because I like I said, I don't want people thinking he's up to something. I want them to know about this, and that's why we're here today talking about this too. This functional movement disorder, letting people know this is something. It's out there. It's real.
Now I'm like, if I see somebody walking like that, I'm going to think, is he drunk or does he have this same kind of disorder type thing? So, but as it progressed, you talk about back to the grocery store. I think I interrupted you from.
Well, that's pretty much the end of it. That's where the first symptoms popped up, and it's like, what the heck is going on? And then it didn't happen.
Was that kind of like your wake up call? Like, I need to go see
something's up. Yeah, and that's where the testing and the different doctors started. And we started with my own, primary doctor.
Did the male people, they ever give you, like, are you faking injuries? Are you following in purpose to get out of work? Or are you trying any of that stuff ever come up?
At first they did. They're like, oh, look at him. There he is. He's pulling it again. And it's like, I am not pulling it again. Well, eventually they had to help me carry my mail out to my truck. They had to help, a lot of times there's packages that they had to help me with, give help. And, and they'd say, why don't you just retire? It's like, trust me, I am. I'm trying to get a disability. I can't keep doing this. So there was a little bit of that at first, and then I think it went away. Yeah.
You had a couple incidents where you fell and, like, some of the customers even had to try to help you.
Yeah, there were customers that actually called the station and didn't complain, but I think they sent out a kind of a is he okay type thing, kind of a worried call saying Joe's falling down on here. We saw him fall in our yard. Is he okay? Is he safe to do this? Because I'm sure they don't want to get sued too.
Exactly.
Thinking, some of the apartments would have to have their staff come out and carry the packages in for me. So there was stuff like that.
Okay. So did you go to your regular primary doctor first kind of thing?
It started off there, and then she just said, this is above what I know. They know how to give you a shot.
Never a good sign.
No. And she's just like, I've never seen anything. So then she sent me to the guy that they recommend for MS. And he did all this different testing. He says, you don't have MS. Okay, what do I got? I don't know. Oh, good. I don't know. I'm walking, I'm not faking it. I'm walking all over. And then he sent me down to the U for a series of testing. And then part of the U had the ataxia department, and that's kind of another neurological thing. The guy examined me, and when I first got there, Joey, it was weird because there were all these people in the waiting room, and they're all doing the same thing that I'm doing. They're walking, we're twitching, we're banging around, and it was like I was home. It's like, this is my family. I found my island.
These are my people.
My people.
The twitchers.
Yeah, the twitchers. But then when he said I don't have what they have, I was angry. It was like, okay, first they tell me I have ataxia, now you say I don't. And in the end, it was a good thing because it ruled one more thing off. We crossed one more thing off the list. And then that's when they sent me, or I actually called the U and I said, here's what I have. And they said, okay, well, we'll try and get you in. You have to be interviewed by a series of people because Mayo is a big deal.
Yeah.
And you don't just walk in there and say, I'd like to make an appointment. So I was interviewed both with paper type thing, questions, and then also interviews where you're talking. And they finally said, okay, we're going to take you in. And they did a number of tests on it. I was probably down there 7, 8 times. And then they said, okay, we're going to have you come down to this boot camp because what we think you have is functional movement disorder. And we're going to teach you how to walk again. And in my mind, I went in there with a negative attitude. It's like, what do you mean you're going to retrain me to walk? That makes no sense. How do you retrain somebody to walk?
Did they, at first, did they start out by telling you the causes of that or trying to diagnose how you would get it or anything other than just saying, no, you got this, trust us on this one, you got it?
Well, it was based on a number
how they come to that conclusion, I guess is what I'm asking.
They did the testing on it where they used these electrical probes and they would check your reaction time and
describe that product. That's you told me that
yeah,
prior.
It was like a nail, like a finishing nail with electricity hooked up to it, and they would stick it into your, like they started with my left shin, and the right shin and the right thigh, and they would stick it into the bone, and when it got to the bone,
so they break it goes
into the skin. It left sores because it was open skin, and then it goes into your bone, and then they zap it with whatever charge of electricity, and then they measure. Okay, we zapped it at this point. Here's how it looked, how long it took before it affected him, before we got a reaction.
And they're trying to analyze how the nerves,
how quick the signals
recognize that electric signal.
What they best described it as is, with your brain, they said your hardware is working, your software isn't.
Okay.
No, the other way around. Your
software is working, but your hardware isn't.
Okay, you know what I mean here, right?
Right.
Your brain is sending out a message. Your brain is fine, but it's sending out the message and
somewhere it's getting lost.
It's getting lost. There might be a frayed nerve or something. And so that's kind of how they describe it.
Or maybe that message isn't, that could explain kind of the shakiness is maybe the message isn't getting there at the right time relative to...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they did that, and then when they went to the left side, they gave me the needle or the nail into my leg again, and they zapped it, and I thought, boy, that hardly even hurt. What? And the guy said, well, I'd hit you with the same amount of juice, and he did it again. It was the same thing. It's like it hardly hurts compared to what the other one was. Well, then he cranked it way up, and of course he got a reaction, but he said, look, I had to turn it way up high for your left side. So a lot of this affects my left arm and my left leg.
Now that's right there is where all the doubt comes as far as if it's real or not, because you can't fake not feeling electric.
A zapping. It'd be hard to, kind of like getting tased. I don't know if you could fake that and say that didn't hurt.
No.
But so that's kind of what they did, and that was one of the tests they did. They did a number of observation tests where they watched you walk different obstacle courses. They did things like that. They timed you on stairs, and they pretty much came up with this functional movement disorder.
Did that feel right to you after knowing what it was? Did you, like right now, do you have any doubts at this point?
No, I think it's that's what it is. And as I look around on the videos on YouTube and different ones, these different people, and I'm going to tell you a story later about somebody, but watching what they do on these, it's like we all have it, but it affects everybody different.
Okay.
But what's neat is if you meet someone who does have it, I could tell him all day long or her all day long, here's what I got. They know what I'm talking about. But sitting here talking to you or my wife, I can tell you what it's doing, but you're not going to know what it's doing. No.
Is this one of those kind of recently discovered type things as far as
it's been around for actually a number of years, and they used to call it different things. The name before this was called conversion disorder. And now they've kind of grouped them all under functional movement disorder.
Okay. Do you know anything about the history of it? Do you know how long, when was the first diagnosis? When did it become a recognized condition?
I guess that's a good question. I probably should know that stuff or look
if you don't
up
know
more.
It's fine.
I don't.
Just out of curiosity.
I don't.
What about statistics as far as number of people who suffer from it? Do you know anything about that?
I'm going to pass on that one too.
That's fair. Those are all things people can look up. Questions as they come to my head.
Yeah, and when you first got there, I was talking about the ataxia. Okay, we rule that one out. They checked for all these other things, ALS, MS, PMS, different things.
I already hate that one the most because it has the word tax in it. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that was a thinker joke.
There you go. Right, it's a slow burn.
But they kept ruling out all these things. My wife and I were convinced I had MS, and we're like, crap, okay, this is what my life's going to be.
Right. Be forced to open up for Josh Blue for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, and she said too, she says, watch me. She said, now, you got this thing. She goes, I got the perfect job for you. And I said, what? She goes, you can be the paint shaker at Walmart. It's like,
so your wife's funnier than you.
Yeah, she's a ball of laughs.
You got to appreciate that though. I'm panning through my notes here. So let's talk about progression. So your first signs 3-4 years ago, right? Has it gotten worse, or are you just now just putting it all together? Is there any kind of trend to it at all? Is it more episodes, less episodes?
I think it's less. And there's times I'll go a couple weeks without having something happen, and then all of a sudden something triggers it.
Okay.
But I think, there's times when I think I'm doing great, and in fact I saw somebody from the work about a week ago, and I said, "How am I looking?" And she said, "You don't look very good. You're bad." And it's like, I thought I was doing great. And I'll tell you a quick story. There was a gal from church where she had a birthday party.
Okay.
So my wife and I went over there, and we're there 10 minutes. And this guy comes up, and he goes, "Hey, aren't you Joe Tanner?" And of course, your head swells up. Yeah, of course I am. And I knew, he probably knew me from comedy. He came to a show or something. And I said, "I am." He goes, "Well, I know all about you." "Oh, you do, huh?" And it's getting kind of creepy, It's like, "Why do you know all about me?" He goes, "You have functional movement disorder." "Oh, how'd you know that?" Because I wasn't announcing it to everybody.
Right.
And he goes, "I have it."
Oh.
"So you have it?" Because this is the first guy I really met who ever had it.
It's like a secret club. Like
Yep.
You guys
And
needed like a
we had a
handshake
secret
of some kind.
handshake. So we were trying to handshake, but our hands couldn't. We were shaking too much to meet. But so he was telling me about it, and he said, when Faith said, "This friend of mine, Joe, is coming over and he has what you have," he said, "Don't say another word. I want to figure out who this guy is, and I'm going to tell by how he looks when he walks in." And when I got to that party, I thought, I'm walking really well. I didn't have a cane that day. I came in, and I thought I was doing good. He goes, "You walked out through that door." And he goes, "I saw you holding onto the rail with two hands going down." And he goes, "Then you started doing the flop and slop over here." And he goes, "I knew you within a minute."
Right.
And here I thought it was good. So others see you as, what's wrong with that guy?
Well, just so listeners know, the last time I think I saw you in person was here before when I was doing the podcast, in the first variant of this podcast. And I haven't seen you in at least 2 years, and maybe more, and maybe like 3-ish or plus. And I met you outside, and as you're getting out of your truck, I could immediately see some different Joe Tanner than I saw before.
Oh.
So you definitely weren't moving with the same vigor. You
The same
were more
speed that I had?
Yeah, you were more cautious,
Yeah.
and you got out my driveway slopes a little bit, so I mean you got to be cautious
We
regardless.
also had a 300-pound dog out there.
He's like 290, man. But yeah, so definitely noticeable that way. So I get it. But yeah, for somebody who has it or suffers from it, I'm sure they're hypersensitive and they know everything together. That's crazy. So how are they? Is there a treatment plan? Are you going to see a doctor regularly? Therapy regularly? Is there? Are they saying this? We're going to fix this, or what's that?
It's kind of cool that you asked that, because what they did, what Mayo Clinic did after all those testing times we had, they put you into a boot camp.
Okay.
And it's a week-long boot camp. You have to go down there. It's like 8 hours a day. And we stayed in a bed and breakfast, B&B or whatever they are, and just stayed on there because the drive was too long. But you get there in the morning, and they put you through a series of physical and mental challenges every day. And they said, "We made it go away," or "We'll make this go away." From what I read, it doesn't go away. What Mayo gave you was tips and techniques on how to deal with it as the flare-ups occur. And so there was like...
So they're preparing to live with it, not we're going to get rid of this.
Yeah, although they did say we're curing it. I think they're...
Does that mean that they're researching it and they're looking for a cure?
No, I think they said I'm fixed, and I don't believe that, because it...
Is there anybody that's fixed today?
No. Well, I don't think so. Not that I've seen or read about.
Wow.
But anyway, they do give you
Mayo,
some...
get on the ball.
Yeah, I thought they were so great. But
take you down to the mustard clinic next.
But they do give you some very good techniques. Like one of the techniques, if you're having a flare up and you're starting to jerk, and I probably should describe to some of these people what this is. It almost looks like you're having a seizure sometimes, and your arm's out of control, and you're getting these weird movements that you're uncontrollable movements that are just happening.
I don't know if you'll be able to relate to this, but when I watched that video of you, like, you ever watch the old kung fu movies?
Yes.
In the drunken style, the drunken master, and how he was all kind of slopping around, but it was intentional. And
so, are you saying I look Chinese in these, or what?
A little bit. You look like you kicked somebody's ass drunkenly, maybe. But that's what was my first impression. Just if somebody wants a visual who's listening,
right?
But that's what it reminded me of. It was like you going through these very fluid,
Right.
like you were in control but not in control.
Right.
It was like you're like if you fall and you fall, that's that. But you look like your body was recognizing it was going the wrong way, but it took you forever to compensate.
Yeah.
You know, like it was slowed down your response time.
Well, I have canes scattered all through the house.
Okay.
Well, one on the deck. There's one in our room at night if I need to get up. So I've used that, and that's one of the things Mayo taught you as a tool. Have something for assistance. If you need a walker, have a walker over there.
Right.
And they work on the psychological end too. Like, is this an anxiety cause problem? And so they deal with some things like that. They give you some exercises to do. Like,
now, what you just stumbled on, that's where it's kind of confusing, probably to the listener, and it's confusing to me. It's like it's both physical and psychological.
It could be.
It could be either, but it could still be the same thing.
Or it could be both. Yeah. And this is what's hard for me to believe is that something that happens in your life, an event,
Right.
can cause you physical ailments. I can't see how that happens, but yet it does. They're saying it does.
That's still, I think it's like, part of the mystery of the mind type thing, how we're still haven't quite figured out how the brain, everything kind of works.
Right.
That there must be an intersecting point between physical and psychological.
No.
And as who knows if it's, environmental or injury or things like that. How does that, again, you were talking about it, it's the communication between the brain and the function. What's causing that? Is it emotion or physical, or is it both together?
Yeah.
Well, is the right balance of injury or emotional distress together? You
Right.
know?
Yeah. So I think what I'm reading, it could be both.
Right.
One or the other, or both, or both. How's that? Yeah. So they taught you a bunch of techniques. Down at Mayo, what's weird down there, like if you go to your doctor's clinic now, you don't look at the guy next to you and go, "What's wrong with you?" Because it's none of your business.
Right.
And you go down to Mayo, I was surprised though people are so open. You're sitting down and somebody will just go, "Well, what are you down here for?" "Well, I got functional movement disorder. How about you?" "I have inoperable brain cancer."
Reminds me a lot of when I go to jail. It's like, what are you in for?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. But so they're a lot more open. So you find out, you might think you have it bad, and then the poor sucker next to you, whatever. But there was one exercise in the physical therapy part. This man had no legs from his knees down. They were gone.
Well, he definitely had problems walking.
He had a problem. He had a problem. But they were putting the prosthetics on him, and he was screaming. It hurt to put those on. So he was trying to walk, and he was hanging on to railings, and kind of like remember in gym class, the parallel bars? They had him in something like that, and he was learning to put pressure, and it hurt. And you felt bad for the man.
Now, is that common for people who had limbs amputated? Like, it takes time for that to...
I guess. That must be something new. But so it hurt. And so anyway, I'm feeling sorry for this guy. He's probably my age. And I don't know what happened. I never did ask him. And so that's his therapy. My therapy, and I don't want to laugh, but okay, they're trying to get me to walk, because I'm bow-legged, to walk with a wider gait and to make sure I step without, like, heel to toe. You don't want to... They said, you really got to worry about how you're walking. And so one thing they gave me, do you remember the game Bop It?
Yeah.
He bop it, twist it, pull it.
Yeah, it was like a little electronic toy, and it had like 4 or 5 different functions.
They gave me the Bop It game. Okay. And I had to walk around through the halls where all these people are getting therapy for having no legs and no arms and everything.
What's wrong with you? You scared of toys?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, sir?
And they had me thinking, okay, now I'm concentrating on Bop It. Take your mind off your walking issues. So that's another exercise. So I actually have a Bop It at our house right now.
Right.
And
a prescribed Bop It.
Prescribed Bop It. And I had
way to go, Milton Bradley.
Copay on that.
Trickled into the healthcare industry.
But the guy with no legs came up. He goes, "Joe, you are so inspiring." And I went, "What?" And whatever his name was, Bob. I said, "Bob, I'm playing a game here. I'm playing Bop It, and I'm not doing very well." And it always time out, And he thought, he goes, "I'm watching you though." He goes, "You're walking," and he goes, "When you first came in here, you were all over the place." He goes, "Now look at you, you're walking." And you're playing this game that you're concentrating on. You inspire me. And I really, in my mind, I thought you are the inspiration, and I'm over here playing a stupid game.
Right. It's all perspective, I guess.
So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about another one. And you mentioned before we started recording about them trying to coach you or get you to use an escalator again.
There was lately I've had problems with escalators, and it's the timing and what happens. You know how when you step on the escalator first, it's flat kind of, and then it turns into the step?
Yep.
I don't seem to get my feet in the right spot because as I put my foot on that escalator, I have it too close to the part that's turning into a step, and it catches. And it's like I don't know where to put my feet, so escalators scare the crap out of me. Okay. So I happened to mention that down at Mayo, and the lady goes, "Well, I've got just the thing for you." And I thought, God, they have.
Now, just to be clear, is it just getting on there? Once you get onto it, now you're fine?
No, once I get on, I got to hang onto that rail like for dear life, and I don't know why. It's like I'm going to fall off.
Okay, and you're just getting super anxious, and you're beads of sweat, and like first time on stage type feeling.
Yeah, and she said, here we go. So she brought me to the escalator at the Mayo Clinic in one of the buildings right at lunchtime where the cafeteria is.
Okay.
There's like 10 zillion people there, all waiting to get on this little escalator that holds only one person at a time. It was a very
Seems like an awkward time to do a medical treatment.
She was trying to work my gears, and I got there, and I went to go on it, and I couldn't get my feet. My feet wouldn't go. They're like the timing. It's kind of like a little kid that wants to jump across a puddle, and he's trying to get 1, 2. And
now again, for clarity, it's your legs aren't responding, or you're just you're scared to do it.
It was probably both. It was more scared. It's like I know if I'm going to step on here, my leg's going to get caught, and I'm going to twist and fall and take out everybody behind me like a giant game of dominoes, which might have been kind of cool.
At least they were in the hospital.
Yeah. So anyway, somebody goes, "Come on, go! It's lunchtime." And I realize they're on a fixed schedule and they want to eat, but it's like, don't they get it that I am having trouble with this escalator? Who do they think they are?
Right.
And so I finally got up there and I hung on to it, and I can hear people kind of yipping and bitching about
the irony of a bunch of medical professionals.
Yeah, and I got
hurry up with your medical treatment, asshole! I got to go eat my
When
sandwich.
I got a fat head, and they notice that. So first that stands out, and now you can't walk. So I get up there, and I tell you what, I got off that escalator, and Joey, I went around the corner, and I started to cry because it was just that intense of a moment. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. It's an escalator,
right?
But for me, it was just like I did that, and I don't ever want to do it again. Well, she made me kept doing it, but.
So how are you better now with that? If me and you were out and we went to an escalator,
I'm not going to hop right on it, but I'm better. Where it's like I know I have to. I really, because at Mayo they really taught you to watch your feet where you're stepping. So now I watch my feet a lot better. And when they took me on that one, that was the first escalator without saying, "Here's how you do it." Not that they should have to tell you how to get on an escalator, but it's kind of like you have to retrain your body, and that gets into some of the. Remember I said earlier they're going to retrain me how to walk, and it's like how can they do that? Well, that was one of the things. You're watching your feet. You're walking with a wider gait. One thing they notice when I walk, my your left arm and right arm always swing. They're always swinging. They said, your right arm doesn't swing for some reason. And I never noticed that. Nobody's ever pointed that out. They pointed out the bow-legged stuff, but they've never said your right arm just hangs there.
Now, is the right arm the same side that's affected?
No, the bad side's the left arm. That arm swings fine. And so sometimes when I'm walking with my wife, if things start happening, she'll say, swing your arms. It's like, oh, I wasn't swinging my arm. So once you start concentrating on your walk again, it's like it's going away.
Interesting.
So that's one of the tips. One of the other tips they taught was kind of the reboot. So say you're having a flare-up and you're starting to twitch and spasm. You just have to say, screw it, and you pull over and get up against the wall, and you just kind of pump yourself up, stress yourself. What's the word I'm looking for? Tense up.
Yeah.
You tense up and you hold your breath for 30 minutes or 30 seconds, and then you exhale, and then you do it again. You might have to do that 3-4 times, and your body does kind of reset itself, so you're good to go. But then there's other times it's just like, screw it, I'm just going to sit over here and spaz out and just let it run its course.
To give an example, did we talk about this? I can't remember if we talked about it before or after, but whatever. We'll tell it again if it is. An example of how it kind of affected your daily life. Tell about the story you went to the Twins game with your son.
Yeah.
And just give an example of how, like from the outside looking in, how people perceive this.
Right. We went to the Twins game, and, Jake and I were there, and we just had pop and pretzel or whatever we had to eat. And we're walking out, and the spasm started. So he had to take my arm, and he's walking me to the car, and it was quite a walk. And there was a police officer out there. And she looked at me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And so I made the motion to her like I was drinking a couple of drinks out of a glass, and like, whoa. She goes, "Get him over here. Are you hammered?" And I went, "I don't know. Do I look hammered?" She goes, "Yeah, you look like you're on something." And that's when I had to explain to her, and I probably should get a card that says this from a doctor. It might be a good idea.
Yeah,
but I told her, I said, I have functional movement disorder. You just made that up. No, I didn't make it up. And anyway, but I had to tell her, and I said, smell my breath, give me a test. I'm not on anything. I just have this neurological walking thing. That's how it looks.
That reminds me of this. You drove over here today. If you have an attack or an episode, how does that? Are you able just to pull over? Well, how does that work with driving?
I've not ever had one
Okay.
in the car. Thank goodness. I don't know, because that's people have asked that. And maybe it's because it's the left side, because we use our right foot to brake and gas pedal. So maybe there's something with that.
Have you ever been driving and your left hand? It's just not holding the wheel or anything. Do you ever get movement issues there, and any just even minor ones?
Well, there is some of that, but I do have a shoulder surgery I just had on my left arm. So lately that's been part of that. But I've had the spasms in the car with the left arm kind of doing its thing. With the post office last year, there's a deal where they let you come in. It's talking about the food drive.
Okay.
And so they're probably doing it again coming up, but they'll give you a free ticket. 8-10 of us will go down there, and we have a kiosk, and you have to sit for one inning at that kiosk and explain to people, hey, May 11th is the food drive. Leave your food out, and the mailman will grab it. And the tickets they give you are up on the third row or third deck.
Okay.
So it's way up there.
Right.
And I was standing there, and it was my turn, and one of the ushers, because it wasn't a real crowded game, one of the ushers just said, "Are you okay to walk up there?" And I said, "Well, I don't. It's a long walk." So he ended up giving me like the seats right behind home plate.
Nice.
So it kind of has its benefits too. One benefit, I tell you what, you go to an airport with this stuff, you immediately get placed in a wheelchair. Sir, sit down. We'll push you. You get to go to the front of the line everywhere you go.
Right.
Coming through, and they put you in those electric carts, those like cushions or whatever, and they'll run you from gate to gate. And one time it was my wife and daughter and I were coming back or going somewhere, and we had the luggage and stuff. And I said, "Hey, can you give me a ride to whatever?" And he could see I was having a trouble time. And so he goes, "Yeah." And usually Linnell and Kayla would get in the cart with me, and he just took off and he left them. She had gate 40. But
nice. Little fringe benefits, I guess.
So there's
to that.
perks of being a gimp.
Famous last words. It depends on your definition of gimp too.
Yeah.
I don't know. What was I going to ask? So is there any physical therapy like that you've got scheduled right now, or is there anything? Are you like in a holding pattern monitoring type thing? What are they doing?
As far as Mayo Clinic, the boot camp I went to, that was it.
That was it.
And they just said, "Here's these tips and these techniques for you to go home. You can go back down there and take that camp again, and you can relearn it, or kind of get a refresher course, if you will." But pretty much said, this is all the further. This is where you go.
Did they tell you that if X, Y, or Z happens, go back to a doctor right away? Are there any?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't remember anything like that. And I did bring my wife with me to almost every time we met with a doctor, because she's got a better memory. And then you also have two of you remembering it.
Right.
So I don't remember anything like that.
Okay. How about medication?
There's no medication given for it.
Okay.
I know there's some people, when they think it's the anxiety part, they do give anxiety pills. I've never been given that, so I don't think they think it's anxiety. Sometimes, though, if it does flare up, and especially if my son's with me, and if I start, he goes, "Oh boy, here we go. You got a brand new audience. Go show off your trick." It's like, I'm not,
Well, you mentioned before, again, pre-recording, that you were having some feet pain, right? Some stinging kind of feeling. You talk about walking, felt like walking on glass. That somebody introduced you to CBD products,
right? Yeah, that's the neuropathy in my feet, and diabetic, and the neuropathy. It causes it damages your nerve endings, is what it does.
Right.
And it's in your feet. Mine, the feet especially, and there's some in my hands and fingers. But the CBD oil, it's not even an oil. It's like a lip, like a balm, BALM, balm. What do you say?
Balm.
Yeah. All right, or a salve. And
salve is nice. That's a sexier word.
Yeah, salve.
But that's salve, right?
So the guy told me, because I had that torn rotator cuff, he said, rub it into your muscles. He goes, my wife is a runner, and she puts it on her joints and stuff like that. And he says
her body's joints, not CBD oil on like knee joints.
She could try. That might be something.
Right.
But so I just thought, I was doing it. It helped, and it gave like a soothing, like a Bengay feeling. And I don't know why, but I thought, I wonder if I put this on my feet, what would happen? And Joey, within a minute, the pain, the like needles and shards of glass, it stopped.
Right.
It's like, no. Because I told my wife, I said, I don't know what I'm ever going to do. If this is going to be the rest of my life, I don't know if I want to be in it. A bed sheet touching your bare toes was like fire.
Really?
If the dogs, I don't know if your dog ever got up and licked your feet, it would hit the ceiling. It's like, good God, what was that? It hurt that bad. And so I put this on there. It's like,
Was there any like physical, like can you see swelling or redness or anything prior?
I don't notice any.
Okay.
It does hurt.
But you just feel the pain.
You feel the pain. You have to wear slippers in the house. They don't want you going barefoot with this. One thing with the neuropathy, when it was bad, it's getting a lot better. So hopefully by quitting all my pop and bad habits, it's getting better. I was running the bath water. And you know how you always feel, okay, is it too, and I rarely take a bath, but I was taking a bath. I mean, I take showers. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just a totally stinky guy. But
He smells great in the studio.
But so you put your hand under there, feel the water. Is it too hot, too cold? And I did it with my toes. And I said, well, it feels kind of cool. And it wasn't cool. It was hot.
Really?
My toes, you lose the sensitivity. That's why it's dangerous for you to walk around when you have neuropathy. It's dangerous for you to walk around because you could step on a Lego and you don't feel it. You know, whereas like
That's the ultimate test right
That's
there.
the ultimate test. Step on a 50,000 piece Lego set and you go, what?
Right.
But so that feeling is getting better. But this stuff that I rub on my feet, it's got the oil in it. It's a godsend.
Right.
And I'm going to keep using it. And
Yeah,
I don't
good
care
for
if it's
you.
illegal or not, or not that mine
No,
is.
it's perfectly legal now. So
But so I'm going to use it. And
at least in the state it is.
yeah, so.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. It's amazing. I mean, there's just every day you can find a new story about a new treatment that CBD is helping or curing or whatever, however you want to say it. Now those two, the neuropathy and the functional movement disorder, they're not intersected at all. One doesn't. They have never said that, right?
No,
These
no.
are just two different things that you're dealing
Just
with.
happens to have both of these at once.
Okay. That's just, I wanted to make sure that was clear on there as well, too. What else I wanted to ask you about? So we talked about that. How about like more personal effects? Like does the functional movement disorder, does it affect your love making? Does it interfere with
Functional movement disorder makes it more of a wild ride. You start the tremors. She's like,
I didn't want to say it.
I just give her the cowboy hat and say, hang on. Wee-ah!
It's like, come on, Joe, start shaking again.
Where did you learn that? Something I picked up at Mayo.
Right. A nurse showed me. It
Yeah.
was weird.
His name was Dave.
Right.
No, that hasn't affected it so much. I mean, I wasn't getting any before.
Right. No, maybe I get a sympathy play. Like,
Yeah.
come on, I'm shaking over
Yeah,
here.
look at me. No, so that's been fine. It's been what I think is affecting anything is she's got to slow down to wait for me even more, and I don't want to be a burden. And I mean, you saw me 3 years ago. You said if you thought I was slow moving then, now it's just, and she's fast, and
Right.
there's times she has to stop and wait for me to catch up because you're moving slow, you're moving careful. So that part has affected myself. And now being retired, it's like, and you don't want to feel like you're useless, but it's like, okay, my income's been cut more than half. I'm thankful I'm getting something from disability, but you're not bringing home the money you were. The week that because we filed for disability in February, and we didn't hear till 2 weeks before Christmas, and you kept getting letters where we're trying to update. I was having, money-wise, I was making my best check I was all year. And then she gets this letter in the mail from the postal department saying, your disability has been approved, you're done right now. And when you get that letter from the post office, you're done right now. Whether you're done with your route or you're just starting your route, you are to drop everything you have right now. You might be handing a mail to old Mrs. Appletree.
Nope, I'm out of here.
Sorry, you can't have it. I'm done.
Holy
And
shit.
it was like, part of me was kind of like, couldn't this wait a week? I was having the best check all year. It was going to be a kick-ass check.
Right.
And you're done. And that was odd. And so that feeling I have, it's not a depression.
How long were you post?
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
That's-
But it's where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? Right now it's like there's 6 Saturdays and one day is Sunday. And the only reason I know that is because the paper is thicker, Otherwise, every day is like a Saturday. You wake up, well, what am I going to do today? And I was able we have what's called a TSP. It's like a 401k, but a thrift savings program. I was able to save a lot of money in that. And so she's like, Joe, you don't have to work. You don't have to go anywhere. You have enough money in that. You get this pension. And she does okay. So she's like, we don't need you to work. but yet I still feel like, what am I doing? She goes, well, you're here to let the dogs out. Oh, boy.
Right.
Okay. Well, you can do the dishes. Okay. I do them anyway. I was doing these things before. But so I just have to get over that feeling of what am I going to do? Why am I here?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Everybody wants to feel useful.
Right.
I think everybody wants to have a function or have a
Right.
purpose. And which bothers me now. Like, why'd you stop doing comedy? You know, this should be the prime time now.
Right.
Now you've got this time to do it.
Well,
you should get up now you've got a whole lot more to talk about now
Right.
too.
Well, in the comedy, Thorne's given me work.
Okay.
And Hanson gives me a little bit.
Nice.
And Bob Damaris. You
Nice.
can go work with Bob anytime you want.
Bob's
He's always
great.
very good. Some of them were actually, and I'm not going to say who, but a couple of them have said, we've heard you've got some health issues, and we're worried about you falling down on stage. The one thing I will say about Thorne, I appreciate his work, but that stage, have you worked at the Courtyards of Andover?
No.
There's no railing going up the stairs, and stairs and me do not get along.
Okay.
And I went to go up there, and it was like crap, and I thought I was going to fall. So the next time I was there, I just have to talk to the MC or whoever's before me. Hey, when you bring me up, say, here's Joe Tanner, and walk over to those stairs and give me a handshake.
Right.
And let me pull up that way, and that way it looks like you're shaking hands like, hey, Joe, how are you? Really, I'm using you.
Okay.
Just get me up there. So, Michael Thorne,
take
if
a-
you're listening.
take a
when
cane on stage?
I have taken a cane on stage, and what I've told the people, I told them I had knee surgery.
Okay.
And I said, so tonight, if somebody asks you how was stand-up comedy, say, well, it was actually sit-down comedy because I used that stool. So I think, I don't want to say the words out that Joe could fall down,
Right.
but
I'd say, in just my perspective, I would embrace what it is that you're dealing with and
Right.
name it. And
It-
I
it-
could think of 15 minutes of material right now. Just
one time when it was really going bad was when, is it Prince Harry? Did he just get married to
Yes.
the girl?
Yes.
It was during that. I was really having some issues, and I had a show. And it looked good because I said, my knee's going out, folks. I don't know what's the matter with it yet. They're trying to fix it. But right now it looks like I'm doing a curtsy for the Queen. Your Majesty, I didn't know you were going to be here tonight. And so I've kind of got around it with that. And,
Right.
and there's other times where I just have a stool and I'll sit part and stand part. And
Gotcha. Well, what's in the conversation with this, and I assume this, like we talked about in the beginning, the E word of the three diagnosis ones are the one that we've already kind of determined was the most detrimental with the death component to it. But the neuropathy and the functional movement disorder, is there anything that, of course, it affects quality of life? Is there anything the doctors are warning you that it may make life shorter? I guess is a nice way to say it. Or is there anything that's medically from those two diagnoses, the neuropathy and the functional disorder, that's going to shorten your lifespan, I guess?
I don't think shorten the lifespan at all. The E word, the encephalopathy, that one can cause, the brain damage, because that is a form of brain damage.
Okay.
And that could cause premature death, I believe, from what I've read up about it. But because they're not sure I have it, I really haven't concentrated on that one as much.
Is that kind of like the CT? Like they really don't know until after the fact, and they
Right.
did like some kind of cut your head open and look at your brain type
right?
thing.
Yeah. So and I don't know. In the end, I don't know if I want an autopsy or not. Keep them all guessing.
Right.
What happened to Dad? Nobody knows. He just went
It's a
away.
mystery.
He fell. But the neuropathy, I think of the two between functional movement disorder and neuropathy, to me, the neuropathy scares me the most because if your nerve endings are dying, you could end up leading to amputation of your feet, your legs. That's what diabetic. That one, I don't know. And it's not funny, but if they cut off my one leg, I'm going to be the best fucking pirate out there. I'm going to get
Right.
I'm going to get a peg leg, and
You got to embrace it.
you got to make what it is,
Got to get a parrot.
Yeah, get a parrot. But that one scares me more because, and maybe functional movement disorder is a lot more dangerous than I'm thinking. But to me, it's like if I have a cane or if you need a wheelchair, that's a lot better than having your legs or things amputated
Right.
to me. So maybe I'm looking at it not knowing all there is to know.
I don't know. I think at least, I don't know, being alive in some form. I guess it's easy to say when you're not missing any legs or anything,
Right.
and you're not, confined to a wheelchair or
Yeah.
things like that. It's easy to say it from this perspective, But as you know, you want to see your kids continue. I mean, you've got 3 successful kids who do amazing things. You got a great wife. So, I mean, even if you're missing a leg or two,
Yeah.
at least you get to.
Yeah. So, and right now I'm trying to just, you wake up every day. And like I said, it's like, what am I going to do today? I'm still waking up. There's a lot of people that have it a whole lot worse.
Exactly.
So,
Cool. Well, I appreciate the candor, and I'm glad you came in and talked to me on this.
yeah,
Thank you very much for doing it, man.
See you again 4 years from now.
Definitely. No, we're gonna have you back sooner because Joe's had a great life, and he's gonna be back. We're gonna talk about some other things. I'm not gonna get spill the beans yet, but expect him to be back as soon as possible on another episode as well too. But thank you for this one too.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joey.
All right, buddy. All right, there you go. Another episode of the Filter Free America podcast has traveled through the magical wires or stuff, whatever, into your ears or whatever you listen to with. I assume everybody listens with their ears, right? But whatever it is, it's happened. You've consumed it. Ta-da! There you go. The show is almost over. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the show, number one. I appreciate that. And I hope that all of you have learned a little bit more about what functional movement disorder is, right? Yeah. So I tell you, I bring you everything, man. Sometimes it's going to be a crazy, exciting topic. Sometimes it's going to be like an obscure medical condition. But I try to find the interesting facts, the interesting elements of that, bring it to you in conversation form, and then you enjoy it or you don't. Either way, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I love Joe Tanner. I got a chance to sit down and talk with my buddy and kind of learn what he was living with and what he was experiencing. And I feel we're a little bit closer together now because of that, right? Yeah. Also, you guys, the listeners, you guys and gals or whatever sexual orientation or identity you want to identify yourself as, I love all of you. All of you, every single one of you. Yes, even you with the look of disbelief on your face. You don't think anybody else loves you. Joey loves you. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being regular listeners of the show. And thank you for being the growing audience that you are. It's amazing. It makes me so happy. It even makes my dog happy. You can hear him shaking his head in the background. I appreciate it, right? Also, another reminder, please make sure you go to wherever you're listening to this podcast and rate and review the podcast. Please do that. Appreciate that very much. Anything else? Oh, also, what else? Oh, yeah. Go to filterfreeamerica.com. Filterfreeamerica.com. As always, America is always misspelled intentionally with a K. Go to that website. Couple reasons. Number one, you can go and see what it looks like when simplewebsite.us builds a website, because they build and maintain my website because I'm too dumb to do it myself, right? Go there. Another thing you can do while you're there is you can send me a message, right? You want to send a little message. There's a way that you can contact me. Send me a message directly. You know, I don't know what you want to talk about. I don't know. Maybe give me your thoughts on the NFL draft. I have no clue. I couldn't even tell you who the first person was to get drafted, right? I don't even know. Regardless, right? You can have some communication with me, and I would love to hear from you, whether it be, talk to me about the podcast in some kind of way, recommend a guest, something like that, or you just want to tell me, confess your love for me, right? That'd be hot, something like that. Also, while you're there, make sure you check out the store section, because that is where you need to go if you want to cop a copy of my album, Neck Tattoos and GEDs, or The Secret to My Success. You click on that link to that, and there's all the ways you can buy it. You can buy it as a download. You can buy a physical copy of it, the whole 9 yards. Boom, boom, bang. There it is. And trust me, I'd really appreciate that, because that'd be nice to get a little extra money, in the coffers here for the podcast. That'd be great. Again, thank you to Joe Tanner. Again, thank you to you guys. As always, please make sure you spade new to your pets and children, and make sure you're always seeking the truth. And I love you guys. Go out and give somebody a hug. Go hug your dog, right? Right? Got some dog issues going on here at the house. One of my dogs is a little bit sick. Not going to be around me much longer. I love her to death. And it's a thing. It's a thing I'm dealing with. So for me, go to your dog. Give your dog a hug. Love your dog. Take care of your dog, because they're very, very special creatures. All right, guys. We won't see each other. I was tempted to say see each other. Very rarely do we see each other. It's always here. Very rarely do I hear you, honestly. To be the truth, you're just going to hear me. I guess I'll talk to you later. That should be the new sign out. Talk to you later, right here on Filter Free America. Bye-bye.